All right, so all that kind of ties into what I liked about it was how it runs into your stress and emotion. And I found this particular graphic. It was actually I found it searching after I found a doctor's presentation they had for school that they had posted online, and I saw this thing and I was like, it's kind of an interesting one here, and it's the stress and emotions creation cycle. And so when stress is added to the body, whether it's physical or emotional, it moves to our liver and gallbladder. And again, this is more of the Eastern. It was more of an Eastern belief that they had on here, so that's where it derived from. But yeah, so physical symptoms: the liver produces more cholesterol, bile production becomes imbalanced, impairing digestion. Blood stagnates in the liver, reducing its ability to detoxify the body. That's just the combination of stress, anger, jealousy, envy, and frustration. That's with after stress. Moving on to your third cycle, or third step on this cycle, has to do with the heart and small intestine. Negative emotions: hate, cruelty, and impatience. I think I missed that. Liver and gallbladder was the first one. Negative emotions: anger, jealousy, and envy. So with the heart and small intestine, stress, anger, hate, impatience, and cruelty. The physical symptoms: palpitations, high blood pressure, chest pain. And I believe this is just when you're cycling through. These are more extreme when you get to that. Moves again, that stress cycle moves to your spleen and stomach and pancreas. Negative emotions are worry, anxiety, and mistrust. Stress plus anger plus hate plus worry plus anxiety plus mistrust creates the physical symptoms of impaired digestion, which already happened before, too. Difficulty eliminating waste produced by digestion. All right, so all these things keep going back to digestion, right? How well we can actually pull those nutrients from our body, and why stress eating can be a thing to try to help satisfy certain parts that are disrupted. Okay, going into 5, lungs and large intestine. Negative emotions: sadness, depression. Stress plus anger plus anxiety plus depression plus sadness equals the physical symptoms of breathing problems, decreased oxygen in the blood, constipation. And finally, moving on to your kidney and bladder. Your negative emotions, the negative emotion being fear. All right. Physical symptoms, or excuse me, it's stress plus anger plus anxiety plus depression plus sadness plus fear, right? So it just keeps adding on to it, and how it could, remember we're talking about like a primary emotions, or secondary emotions, tertiary emotions, and then how it all kind of interrelates to each other, and they're very complex. This is kind of like that stress cycle that they're trying to show in this one. So all those things together add the physical symptoms of loss of primordial or sexual energy. The body becomes acidic. The nervous system becomes stressed, and loss of life force, or like your enthusiasm. So you start becoming more apathetic. And remember, we're talking about like your other hormones that are involved, and where a lack of can create some of those similar things for it.
So can you become sick?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what they're trying to show is increased levels of stress. And well, I think this cycle, because you notice like through the bladder, it's like there's an arrow out. However, that can cycle back through if you don't have any system of mitigation to relieve that stress, and it'll just keep going through your system, causing havoc inside, right? And I think I mentioned this too, psychologically. You know, if you don't deal with certain emotions, or you're just not allowed to feel them, and you try to repress them and suppress them, it causes havoc in your psyche, right? And it starts messing with your mind in certain ways, because it's like garbage in your house. You can't just eliminate it. It's gonna smell, it's gonna fester, it's gonna create other problems in it.
Sweeping it under the rug, like
sweeping it under the rug. Yep, exactly. So I mean, there are whole reasons why this. One of these things like that really got to me though is like the body becomes acidic, and I wasn't sure what they were talking about, so I did a little more research on it, and I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be like an actual physical acidity, or if that's supposed to be a more psychological thing. It does have it under physical symptoms, and so I was looking back on it, because whenever I come across things like this, especially when it comes to more on graphics like this, I'm always questioning the media that I consume and the information that I do consume, and seeing if it can relate back to, say, the science which is actually there. So how can it relate, or can it even relate to the hormones and the chemicals of the emotions and how they're involved in this, because this all has to deal with the same sort of stuff. So what I had found was, I believe it was through Healthline. Yep, your acid-base balance. Because again, I wasn't sure what that actually meant with being overly acidic, and acidosis means that you're overly acidic, and that is an actual thing. And there's a balance between that. So your body maintains homeostasis, which is a general balance between everything. Okay, what are we, about 70% water is what that was. And so I always say that too. It's like when people don't drink enough water, it's like think of yourself as like a pail full of water. Okay, what happens if you leave that water out in the open to the elements? It gets nasty. It starts to fester. It starts building mold. It starts building all these negative things in there. Bugs start going in there, and you would never drink that water, right? Well, you okay? Man, it is so exciting. A lot of stuff happening here today, so I gotta take a break. Things are crashing. It's raining cats and dogs. Hysteria. Alright, what I was talking about from the last website was I wasn't sure how it related to being the body becoming more acidic. If that meant like your blood, it meant your body. I didn't know what it meant. And then I found this particular article, which it does address that there are two versions of acidosis, which is an increase in acidity in the body. And I think I was mentioning, I don't know if I mentioned it beforehand or not, about the whole water bucket. As your body is a water bucket, and if you let it fester without replenishing the water, right, that flow of water through it, you can get problems in your body from it, which is why drinking water is important, right? Between your 3 meals, you got 3 snacks, and then between those, you can drink water throughout the day and regulate it. And I know it's tough to do, especially with everybody that has working lives, right? And it's not always tangible, but we can do the best that we can to just make sure that we are consuming enough water and food and the right types of food throughout the day to help give us the best balance that we can get. All right. What I had found in here to try to verify the last site was this. There are 2 different types of acidosis, respiratory and metabolic. And they are kind of closely related here. In respiratory acidosis, when you breathe, your lungs remove the excess carbon dioxide from your body. When they cannot do so, your blood and other fluids become too acidic. So, symptoms of respiratory acidosis, they may include fatigue, shortness of breath, and confusion. Again, this is not a way to kind of be like, oh, that's just the cause of it. Be sure you go to your doctor. They have tests for these things to make sure. Okay? Cause of respiratory acidosis. There are several different causes of respiratory acidosis, including chest deformities or injuries, chronic lung and airway diseases, overuse of sedatives, and obesity. Okay? I know they were talking about types of it. And again, they go over all these different types of things, the treatments. This is why I like Healthline. They're very thorough. Metabolic acidosis. So, metabolic acidosis occurs either when your body produces too much acid or when your kidneys are unable to remove it properly. So, what did that mention on the last one? What were the last two organs or groups of organs? The lungs and large intestines, and the kidney and the bladder. Right? When your kidney doesn't do its job, it can actually lead to your body becoming too acidic. So there is science that might be able to back this up, saying that it is possible that this stress complex, which does disrupt everything, it minimizes your nutrients from your digestive tract, or from digestion, minimizes resources so then it can be put into a better fight or flight position, and how it can relate to your overall health over things when you rely too much on it, or you're stuck too much in your sympathetic nervous system. So I thought that was really interesting with that. So causes of metabolic acidosis: prolonged exercise. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean that exercise is bad. Lack of oxygen, certain medications including salicylates, low blood sugar or hypoglycemia, alcohol, seizures, liver failure, cancer, kidney disease, severe dehydration, and poisoning from consuming too much aspirin, ethylene glycol, and methanol. So, like, I didn't know how closely related those two were. And I found this other article from Dr. Roach when they were talking about maintaining the pH balance. And I'm just going to read this to you guys from here. Dr. Roach, the question was regarding a recent column, if a body does not need help in maintaining pH balance, why does the consumption of different foods cause changes in urine pH? So, like I said, when it's your body's automatically doing that, and they do have tests that they run, which is why a urine sample is one of the tests they usually run when you go to the emergency room, right? Things that they're looking for. Your body's built a certain way, but it can, over time, with too much stress, become disrupted. It can become damaged, and why we need to be more vigilant with our lifestyles and the choices that we make, right? Not let them rule us. So Dr. Roach's response to this is, the body has two main organs with which to regulate pH. The acid-base status of the body based on food intake, exercise, medications, and other causes that would perturb the body's pH, which is very tightly regulated and slightly alkaline at about 7.4. Again, that's that pH scale. The more important and faster acting is the lung. By increasing the respiratory rate, we excrete more carbon dioxide, which is in equilibrium with carbonic acid. Again, so it's in equilibrium with carbonic acid. So, again, all these things are happening unconsciously in your body. We're built this way, automatically. This is happening every day, all the time. All right? Breathing more deeply and quickly can move the blood pH towards the alkaline side. All right? This usually happens without our being aware of it. The kidneys are the other important organ for long-term regulation of pH. The kidneys can regulate reabsorption of carbonic acid in the tubule, increasing or reducing acid secretion. So, urine that is more acidic than normal may mean the body is ridding itself of excess dietary acid and thus making blood pH more alkaline. Ammonia is another way the kidney can regulate pH balance. Blood pH does not vary more than a minute amount from its expected level, except in cases of critical illness, disturbances in kidney function, or disease that affect control of breathing. So again, there's so many different things out there that could be causing it, but creating the best environment for yourself by exercising right, with lifestyle changes, with moderation in how much you consume, with whether you are still drinking alcohol or smoking cigarettes or those things, but not just that, but your dietary needs, right? Our culture, especially here in America, we overconsume so much, and it's so easy to get addicted to it without us even knowing. So becoming more vigilant with that within ourselves to understand, like, hey, I need to be on this way more, so then I know what that consumption is and I can help regulate to create the best version of my body, is massive. Hey, thanks for checking out my video on here. If you like the content that I'm putting out, please be sure to like and subscribe down below and add a comment, because I'd love to see what your guys' thoughts are on this sort of content and these topics that I'm putting out there. Alright, until next time, stay golden.